courage is definitely a skill. It's not a trait. A lot of people think that people are born courageous. It's actually something that you develop over time. So, how do you become more courageous? Well, you start doing things in the face of fear. Courage by definition is doing something in the face of fear or going through something with the strength to face pain or adversity. So today we're going to be talking about how do you become more courageous. Jordan Peterson once said to be fully self-conscious means that you're perfectly aware of your limitations and how you might be hurt, and then to make the decision to move forward into the unknown and the land of the stranger. Anyways, that's one of the secrets to a good life. Now, you know, being able to practice courage is definitely one of the ways that you can become more courageous, right? So, what are the different types of courage? You have, physical courage where, you might be going to do something at the gym, whether it's, take a jog, deadlift, squat, box. For example, with me walking into a boxing ring, I remember the first time, just even in sparring, the butterflies I felt walking into that ring, but I knew that I had to go forward anyway. This was my opportunity to see, what am I really made of? And thank God that I continued to move forward in the face of that fear because it brought me to a Golden Glove state championship one day. I never thought in my life that I would ever be a boxer, but it was something that found me more than I found it. And then yeah, had the courage to go into the ring and test myself and prove myself. And that allowed me to move forward in that sport. So physical courage, it doesn't have to be going and fighting somebody. It could be something as simple as, you know what, I've been wanting to run and I'm just going to go to the gym and I'm going to do an interval jog on the treadmill. I'm going to walk and then I'm going to do a little jog and I'm going to do that for 5 minutes, and then 5 minutes every day compounds. And then now all of a sudden, you're able to go to the gym and you're able to run for 20 minutes. Even if it's a slower jog, it's still moving forward in the right direction. But that started because you had the ability to say, hey, this is something unknown, but I'm still going to go and try anyway. So physical courage, for example, is one form of courage. Another form would be emotional courage, just being able to stand up for what you feel is right. In the face of that fear, actually acknowledging your feelings or emotions is courageous in and of itself. A lot of times we, you know, try to subdue how we really feel. And a lot of times the best way to move forward is to recognize it. So, part of developing courage and becoming courageous is recognizing that fear is okay. And then social courage, taking risks in relationships or speaking out in social situations. One of the best courages out there, in my opinion, is somebody who stands up to a bully. Nobody likes a bully. And a lot of times, though, even though people talk about bullying as a social issue, if bullying is happening in front of them, they don't actually do anything about it. They just kind of let it happen. And in today's day and age, they even take out their cell phones. They're going to start recording the bullying happen, whether it's because they want to post it on social media or they think it's funny, until it happens to them or they've ever been in that situation. Right. So, social courage is standing up for that bully, watching everybody on their phones, recording that moment, getting a laugh out of it. And instead you step in and say, hey, I'm not going to watch this happen. I'm not going to let you take advantage of this person, and actually standing up for them, even if they're a stranger. That's a huge form of courage. And it doesn't mean that you're not afraid. You could step in there to stand up to that bully on behalf of somebody who doesn't have the confidence to do it themselves and end up in a physical fight or an altercation. Again, courage doesn't mean you're fearless. It means that you're going to take that action even though you're afraid. And you really have to understand the difference between fear versus courage. What actually happens in your brain, like fear activates the amygdala, that fight or flight response. So a lot of times we end up not making the best decisions in that fear, where courage actually rewires your brain over time because it starts to realize that it's a habit. It's something that you do. You don't instantly start feeling fear and then move towards a place where you're not going to take action, because you start realizing that fear is an opportunity for learning and growth. It doesn't have to be something that stops you in your tracks anymore. A lot of people, for example, have fear of creating content and getting in front of the camera. I feel that sometimes, even to this day, even though I've been in front of the camera so many times, recording courses, Zooming on coaching calls in business, there's definitely still an anxiety or an anxiousness that people get from being on camera. And even for recording content like this episode, I knew I wanted to talk about courage and how to become more courageous, but how exactly am I going to deliver that message in a way that's going to, resonate with people? Well, again, if I don't go and just turn the camera on and start talking about being courageous, I'm not going to have anything to share with anybody because simply put, I didn't go and just take the first step, which is just turning the freaking camera on. Courage is essential in everyday life, whether you're chasing a dream or overcoming adversity or simply standing up for yourself. You know, when I was younger, I had to be courageous getting into boxing. I had to face my fear and the anxiety that I felt of getting hit in the face, getting into a ring. All these things were foreign to me, and I get people that often ask, what's it feel like, to fight? I said, well, go and find out. If you have the ability to get to a boxing gym, go put on a set of headgear and gloves, make sure that it's supervised by a coach, and go see what it feels like. You're never going to know unless you try. And for me, like, just getting into that ring for the first time to spar, I had tons of fear. I knew that I was going against somebody that was bigger than me or just somebody that might be more skilled. But at the end of the day, I got in there, I got punched, and I realized that it wasn't that big of a deal. And from there, I started to develop my skills, which eventually developed my confidence. So if I don't go and take that first step into the unknown of going into that boxing ring, I never find out any of this about myself. So the root of courage comes from the Latin word core, meaning heart. So it symbolizes, having that inner strength and resolve. I could definitely say that courage as a skill actually activates your problem solving parts of the brain. So again, courage is something that you can develop over time so you can solve problems better, even in the face of fear. Because if you never give yourself the opportunity to develop courage, every time that you run into fear, you will habitually run in the other direction because you never gave yourself the opportunity to feel what it feels like to be brave. And you never got on the other side where you got a successful outcome because you were courageous. Because every time you get a successful outcome from being courageous, it just enhances that bravery. It enforces and ignites inside of you that you're able to overcome challenges and obstacles that you once might have been afraid of, and then realize, what other things have I been avoiding because I was scared? I was scared of getting a negative result or outcome. I was scared of what other people would think about me. I was scared that I didn't have what it takes. So every time that you move past that fear, you're going to activate that problem solving portion of your brain. And that's going to become habitual for you. It's going to become ritualistic for you. It's going to become a source of strength for you whenever you see fear. When you rewire your brain to realize that fear is an opportunity for learning and growth rather than fear being a response to move away from something, you're going to get more of the results you're looking for in your life. So some of the key ingredients of courage is number one, clarity and awareness. You have to know what matters most to you, and you have to have a why. If your why is not strong enough and you don't have clarity around that why, being courage is going to be challenging because you're not going to have anything to go against the fear, right? If the fear is so great and your why isn't strong enough, not you're not going to be able to get to the other side of of that fear. You're going to get stopped in your tracks because it's going to be easy for the fear to overrule your why if your why is not strong enough. So before you go and do something that scares you, I want you to think about your why. Again, what's empowering you to take this action against fear? Number two is then committing. Courage is commitment. So you have to commit to moving forward in a positive direction in spite of whatever negativity might be facing you. So once you decide that this fear isn't going to stop you, you know your why, you have to then just commit. And then you have to have confidence. So believing in your ability to handle the outcome is going to help you build courage. You have to believe that the outcome is going to be worthwhile. And you have to really believe that no matter what happens, you're doing this for a reason and a purpose that's bigger than you, even. A lot of times courage comes from realizing that what you're doing is less about you and more about the people around you or the circumstances you might be trying to change. If you're trying to go from extreme poverty to wealth, there's a big, big gap between those two things. You have to be confident in the outcomes you're trying to create. And you have to be able to realize that it's going to take time to get to those outcomes, but you're going to get there no matter what. So staying committed, staying consistent, and then building that confidence over time are some of the key ingredients to courage. And then having compassion. Compassion sometimes can be overlooked, or empathy rather, when trying to build courage, because if you're compassionate about other people, you're going to want to help and protect. So, sometimes, you think about superheroes, right? They're going like Superman goes out to protect people because he realizes that they can't protect themselves. And he has compassion that I have to step up as the hero in this story to be able to save others because I care about other people. A lot of times we see superheroes on screen and we don't realize that they too have a fear. They have, Superman has kryptonite. And so, we all have, even in our own lives, a kryptonite, but what do we do? Do we continue to move forward in face of that kryptonite, or do we take a step back? And a lot of times compassion can be a building block for courage because we move forward regardless because we have a desire to help or protect others. So, some of the ways that you can cultivate courage in your everyday life is just start small. A lot of times people ask me, how do I get started running? So what I tell them is just start. I don't care if you run 1 mile in 7 minutes or 30 minutes. I don't care if you walk a mile and you jog for 30 seconds at a time inside of that mile. You just have to start small because those micro acts of courage are going to be building blocks for you as you continue to move forward. So, there's a lot of people out there, David Goggins, for example, who couldn't even run a half mile and was over 300 pounds and wanted to be a Navy SEAL and went on to run ultra marathons. You know, we might not all have the fortitude and drive of a David Goggins, but just him as an example of what's possible. So if you start small, half mile, quarter mile jogs, go to the track and just go around the track one time and just do one time around can dramatically change how you build up the confidence to go and run. So starting small is very important. And then again, reframing fear as an opportunity. Instead of asking, what if I fail? Ask, what if this works out? What if this works out? Because if you look at failure every time as what if I fail, you're automatically at a lower starting point. You're automatically setting yourself up for failure instead of saying, hey, what if I get something that I want? What if this actually works out? What if the results or the dream that I believed in is actually feasible? Because it is. So if you start realizing that fear is an opportunity instead of fear as a negative, you're going to be able to reframe challenges in your life as moments for growth and learning and getting you closer to that desired outcome that you want in your life. Another key way to cultivate courage is use visualization. I want you to literally imagine yourself successfully navigating a scary situation or a frightening situation. You know, visualizing, athletes do this a lot, visualizing the outcome of, like, for example, a pitcher throwing a perfect game. They're visualizing what that feels like. A boxer being able to visualize having their hand raised at the end. You're changing how you feel internally by visualizing what the possibility is. A lot of people use vision boards, when they're trying to build a business of what they want their business or who they want their business to help. So again, visualization, building a vision board, all these different things that you can do will definitely help you cultivate courage in everyday life. And then also celebrating small wins. Think about the times that you actually used courage when you were scared and what that felt like at the end, and celebrate yourself. There's nothing wrong with celebrating those courageous wins. So if you want to cultivate courage in your everyday life, start small, reframe fear as an opportunity, use visualization, and celebrate times where you actually use courage, and leverage support systems. You have a lot of people around you that want to see you win. So the more that you leverage your support systems and the people out there that want to see you win, and you're able to also add value back to their lives, when you are scared, you're able to have an open, honest conversation of, hey, I'm scared to do X, Y, and Z. What do you think I should do in order to overcome this? And a lot of times, if you go and find mentors out there, it doesn't even have to be somebody you talk to every day, but if you do your own research on people that have overcome fear or overcome similar obstacles or challenges that you're facing right now, you'll find out solutions that they've used that you can apply to your own life. So seek out other people who might have gone through the same situations as you. So, these are just a couple different ways that you can become courageous. And again, it starts small. It starts in everyday life. It starts by tackling the smallest fears and just taking those small steps. One of the things that I like to do is I like to journal times where I was courageous and reflect on moments where I acted courageously and what did I learn? What happened on the other side of fear, right? So I can look back at those times and say, hey, I've done this before. I faced similar fears. And now I can look at that fear as an opportunity for growth. I encourage you to look at courage as a journey and not a destination. And then also that every courageous act, no matter how small, moves you forward to your goals. On the other side of fear, don't ask yourself, what if I fail? Ask yourself, what if it works out? So no matter how small, every courageous act adds up and becomes the foundation to moving you closer to the desired end results or goals that you want in your life. Again, courage is a habit. It's something that you can develop over time. It is not something that you are innately born with. It is something that you can actually develop so that way you can have more success in your life, be able to face your fears and move past them and move past any roadblocks that might be stopping you from getting to your goals. So I challenge you to take one step towards any fear that you might be avoiding, whether it's something physical in athletics, or you're working out, whether it's something in a social setting, and maybe it's a fear to ask for that raise. Start with a small step and be able to go forward regardless. So if you're an underdog in your own life, these are a couple different ways that you can develop courage so that way you can write your own underdog story and move closer to being a hero of your journey and get the results that you're looking for.